If you want to decompress and see people who really care about the community and get that authentic small town feel, but with big city quality musicians and food, Lake County is a great place to come, and we're only a couple hours from Sacramento or San Francisco.
Hey, this is Cindy Scott from Cinder's Travels. Welcome to the Locals Know Best podcast. This is episode 9. Locals Know Best is a bi-weekly podcast where my guests share the places and outdoor travel adventures they love most, right in their own backyards. Topics range from unique lodging options, treasured outdoor activities, favorite dining spots, and a breakdown of whether the insta-famous and possibly overrated spots in town are even worth checking out. Today, I'll be speaking with both Tony and Peggy Barthel, who are publishers of the Stress Less Camping podcast and also enthusiasts and tourism ambassadors for California's Lake County. If you want to follow along with links to all the places we're talking about and a map of the area, this episode's show notes can be found at localsknowbestpodcast.com/9. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get into the episode. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about Lake County, California. I love California. So Lake County traditionally is a spot that a lot of people think of Napa, right? Wine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. A lot of people actually ask us, like, well, how far are we from wine country? And I say, well, if you're talking about going to Napa, I can tell you, but really we are in wine country.
Yeah, we are wine. In fact, a lot of the grapes that are in Napa wines come out of Lake County. It's a phenomenal grape growing region.
Okay, well, I want to talk about that, but I also want to hear about all the other outdoorsy things that you can do in the area that people don't traditionally maybe think about.
Right.
And we got them.
So you guys are tourism ambassadors for California's Lake County. I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you get that title.
So there actually is an international, I believe, certified tourism ambassador program. And Lake County joined that program about 5 years ago-ish. Tony was among the first, I was among the second to take that certified tourism ambassador class.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about how long you guys have lived in the Lake County area and just give us a little background on yourselves.
11 years now.
No.
12?
Yep.
Holy cow.
We have lived in Lake County for about 12 and a half years. We both grew up in Southern California, and in 2008, we were looking to purchase a bed and breakfast. And so I was online and I saw a bed and breakfast made out of railroad cabooses. And I thought, well, we didn't really plan to leave Southern California, but for trains, almost anything is possible. And it is such a neat place and such a fun destination that we fell in love with the place right away.
Yeah.
So in 2008, we moved to Northern California and we bought a bed and breakfast called the Featherbed Railroad, which still exists.
Yeah, and here's the brilliance of that. We bought it on a whim. It was a 10-day escrow, and I had never been to Lake County before. So There you go. There's a kind of wise financial move. Follow me for more great financial advice.
That's pretty much how we heard about Lake County is finding a bed and breakfast for sale.
And it's still one of my favorite places because it's such a neat place to stay. But I know we'll get to that.
I would say 12 years is pretty good. That makes you guys experts, especially having that certification from the county.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are great people to be talking to.
So we really dove in when we got here. Part of it was self-preservation, because if you're going to own a bed and breakfast, you need to be able to help your guests find things to do during the day so that they want to stay longer and more often. And, partly we wanted to get out there and see this new place that we lived. So we really got into not only the local stuff, but the destination stuff, the tourism stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious what drove you guys to buy in this county you'd never been to before.
Train cars.
Yeah, train cars and making rash decisions that don't make sense.
We're pretty good at that.
Fair enough.
And it has the charm of a small town in that if you want to make a positive difference when you move here, you can. In LA, you could gold plate the streets and it'd just be another one of millions of people. But up here, the county has about 65,000 people. So if you really put your nose to the grindstone, you actually can make a positive difference and be a benefit to the community. So that's another thing. There's a lot of opportunity to do good up here.
Right.
Yeah. Big fish in a smaller pond.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about Lake County. What is all encompassed within it?
Well, Lake County is the small rural agricultural, mostly county, about 2.5 hours north of San Francisco or Sacramento. So we're about equidistant from both of those places. California gets pretty rural and then very forested the more north you head. And we are kind of at the beginning of that as it becomes a rural state. One of the things that really appeals to people who visit here in Sacramento, I mean, if you want to borrow a cup of sugar from the person living next door, you don't even have to go out. You open your window and yell across. The houses are so close together. And it's even worse in San Francisco, where you rent a phone booth for $2,000 a month, right? I mean, and then up here, the Featherbed Railroad is on 5 acres. The houses are typically on 1/2 acre to 1.5 acre lots. There's horses and people growing walnuts and pears and a lot of wine. And so it's a huge decompression to come up here from the city. And we only have 9 stoplights in the entire county.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's just such a place to slow down and just take in nature. Just being in a place that's slower and wider. There are no parking fees, parking anywhere. We always joke we own the only parking meter in the county, and it's just some old thing that we have from an antique store that we leave in our driveway.
I have the only parking meter in Lake County, and when I go to one of the local breweries, I'll take it and put it in front and put a ticket on people's cars. And they're like, "Oh my God!" And
that's
we're all
hilarious.
Laughing.
I was so
It's just so much an easier pace, an easier place. You can go to the place you want. You can park there. You can walk around and just not be crowded into busy city streets.
And at night, it's a dark sky area. So if you want to see stars, you look up and it's like, wow, there's so many stars. And coming from a place where there's so much light wash like San Francisco or Sacramento, it's a dramatic difference how much you can see at night here.
Yeah.
So those are the appeals of the area, is that it's just a complete transition from the city.
And what an interesting time for us all to be alive. I mean, honestly, there has to be so many people questioning right now why they're living in a big city and considering more than just visiting places like this, considering going and living in places like this and working from them.
The real estate market here is just insane because people are buying lots or houses and, moving up here. And because you think we're 2.5 hours from Google or Apple, and you can come up here and get a good internet connection and make a lot of money and still live in a beautiful rural area.
Yeah. What are the best and worst times to go visit Lake County?
That depends on what you like to do, because I would say the best time are, quote unquote, the shoulder season. So spring and fall, right?
Yep.
And that's when the weather is really fantastic.
And I'm going to always vote for spring because that's my favorite season. And that's when the wildflowers come out and things like that. But because the weather is not hot, and for people who are from anywhere but, let's say, Southern California or Florida, it's beautiful weather here year round. To us from Southern California, we think it's really cold right now.
Yeah, it is 36 degrees.
Oh, it's only 36 degrees at 7:30 in the morning. So it gets chilly.
Okay.
But honestly, it gets up to 65 in the daytime. It is not really cold. But that's really, really good for wine, by the way. That's spring and summer when it gets really warm in the daytime and really cold at night. That's beautiful, beautiful weather for the grapes.
Yeah,
that's what they like.
Okay, so we're going to go into your perfect day in Lake County. Let's start it off. Where are we? I think I have a pretty good idea where we're going to be waking up. But
Well, if you're not in an RV, and there's even an RV park up here that caters to vintage RVs, but if you're not in an RV, let's wake up at the Featherbed Railroad and have one of June's breakfasts.
Absolutely.
The present owner, June and Paul, June is just a phenomenal cook. I mean, just the breakfasts are out of this world. She does such a good job. And on top of that, it's a very memorable place because the cabooses, for those who are not familiar, they used to stick them at the end of a train, and that's where the conductor would be basically operating telling the engineer and managing the freight cars and all that. And most of them have this, what they call cupola, which is on the second story, and it's this windowed little room, and that has been left intact. So you can still go up there and look around, and the place is nestled in this grove of old oak trees. So it's pretty cool. You go up there and you can see the lake and you can see the trees and all of that. So
that sounds so cool and unique. And unique places to stay are so popular right now. Everybody wants that really cool new Instagram place to stay for their trip.
The rooms are unique on so many levels.
I have a father who worked in the railroad his entire working life. So I just think that staying in the train cars is really cool.
The rooms are all these big steel boxes, essentially, and many of them have two-person spa tubs. And now, with everyone wanting to be socially distant, each room is a vintage railroad caboose. I mean, you could shoot out the window at the next guy and not put a bullet hole in the thing. What an odd way to sell it. But, so it is a great place to start your Lake County vacation if you're not in an RV.
Right.
Or if you're tired of the inside of your RV and you want something cool. So you wake up after breakfast, you're ready for adventure. Let's say you really like nature and wildlife and that sort of thing. Lake County is home to a inactive, not dormant volcano, Mount Konocti, and that volcano in its shadow has Clear Lake. And it's neat to get out onto Clear Lake because it is thought to be the second oldest lake in the world, because most lakes either fill up with silt or through whatever they dry up or whatever. This one it's on a fault line. And so because of that, the amount of silt that collects actually also goes sort of down the fault. So it's thought to be well over 1 million years old. Isn't that crazy?
So it shrinks at the same time that it grows.
Yeah.
So that's incredible.
Yeah. So unlike most lakes over long periods of time, they'll fill up and they'll become marshes, and then they'll become meadows, and then they'll just be land. But because Clear Lake is opening at the same rate that it's depositing, the lake has stayed the same size forever.
Yeah. So maybe you would rent a boat from Disney Boat Rentals, and it's the same family. Then they have they have water skiing boats, and they have jet skis, and they have pontoon boats and all that stuff. So let's say you rent a boat from Disney Boat Rentals and you cross the lake and go to Anderson Marsh, where there's a huge number of grebes that use Lake County as a stopping point. And so you could go and see, literally thousands of grebes on the lake. And it's an interesting thing. Their mating dance, the males will literally run across the water. It's just something to see.
Wow.
It's so beautiful to see. They do that dance, and then they have long necks. So they kind of, when they are ready to partner up, they kind of intertwine their necks together and do this little love dance. And you can get out to places where they have their nests and stuff. And so it's a big, big area for grebes and also for blue herons. And we actually have a heron festival at the end of April, beginning of May. And most of what that involves is people with pontoon boats have people from Redbud Audubon Society guide to get the boats out onto the water and find where these blue herons nest and where the grebes nest. And so it's a great program just for getting people out on the lake and seeing what's out there.
Yeah, so if you don't want to rent the boat, you can always, if it's the right time of year, you can go on these guided boat tours. So that's another option. It's neat to be out on that lake because it's just so big. It's essentially a gigantic pond. It's about 20 miles long and 8 miles wide, and only averages about 23 feet deep. So it's not very deep. So it makes it a warm water lake, especially in summer. And as such, bass love it. And so it is just chock full of bass. So it draws bass fishermen from all over North America. It's a bass fishing destination, and ESPN rates it between first and third best bass fishing lake in the U.S., depending on who caught what.
Oh, wow. There must be competitions then.
Oh.
Like every month, there's some kind of a competition.
Even now, with things more closed down, as it were, there's still bass fishing competitions all the time. It's a big draw to the area.
So that's ideal for us because we aren't really hikers. We're not very good at, climbing hills and stuff like that. But really, if you are into it, Mount Konocti is about a 3-mile round trip hike. You gain elevation of about 3,000 feet to the top. And the view from the top of Mount Konocti is incredible. It's all hillsides, so you can see vineyards are really popular on hillsides. So you do get to see a lot of vineyards, but we also have walnut and pear groves. We have a specific Bartlett pear with an extra long neck that we're famous for here. And it's a really great view of Clear Lake. And then Lake County's almost kind of a bowl with that Mount Konocti kind of stuck up in the middle of it. So whatever direction you look, the end of your view is pretty much mountains.
Yeah, unless you think, it's California, it's going to be smoggy. Quite the contrary. We actually have the third cleanest air in the United States.
Right.
And that also means you will have a heck of a view because there's not a lot of air pollution to block the view. So you can see for miles, literally, from up there. And you will see a geothermal plant because Mount Konocti is not a dormant volcano. It is just... it's on vacation at the moment. And so we actually have a geothermal plant where they take the sewer water, clean it out, pump it underground, and it's so hot geologically under there that it turns the water to steam, and that powers turbines and makes electricity. So, so you're standing on a volcano that still is kind of, it's at idle.
Yeah. Is that something that's done other places?
I don't know how many places take advantage of that geothermal to turn it into electricity, but it's certainly a good technology, kind of renewable energy.
And if that's something that really fascinates you, it's called the Geysers is the company that runs that, and they have a visitor center that you can go to and see the steam turbines and all that stuff. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that does sound cool. I would want to go see that.
Yeah, it's neat.
I just love the idea of working with something that's already there, that exists, to help us get power.
It's completely green.
Clean and green.
Steam.
Yeah, amazing. So then let's go into a lunch option for midday. Where would we go have lunch in town?
Well, since you're in Lakeport, I think where I'd send people, of course, is to O'Meara Brothers Brewing Company.
Well,
because
sure.
It's a brewery.
It's a brewery.
So you get locally brewed beer. And they have
really terrific food.
Yeah. Yeah, and the interesting thing is the O'Mearas have a walnut orchard as well, and so all of the wood paneling inside the restaurant is old walnut trees.
Yeah.
And they have indoor and outdoor dining and all of that. And their beer is terrific.
Yeah, their beer is great. So that's a nice place to just kind of stop and maybe have lunch and have a beer and plan the rest of your day.
What kind of food is there?
American.
Yeah, it's not really typical bar food. It's not just burgers and hot dogs. Baked macaroni and cheese is among my favorites. And of course, their deep fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
I've actually made a meal of, even though it really should be a dessert.
What?
Yeah, they will deep fry a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
It is so good. It's so bad for you, but who cares? I mean, because, you're hiking and boating and all that.
You're
so
burning
you're burning
it all off.
Wow, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's super good.
I bet. Okay, well, after our beer and our fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Then it sounds like nap time.
Right? But no,
no.
we're gonna send you over to one of the wineries. I'm gonna suggest Six Sigma because it's a 4,500 acre ranch. There's a lot of great wine choices in Lake County. You almost can't go wrong. Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc are what we're really good at. But we're going to Six Sigma because we're going to hunt for a very unique thing for Lake County.
That's right. So if you go to Six Sigma and maybe you get a ride on their Pinzgauer, which is an old military personnel carrier type 6-wheeled vehicle.
Yeah.
And they'll take you on a tour up to kind of the top to where their vineyards are. But they also have really good access to what's called a Lake County diamond. And the Lake County diamond isn't really a diamond. It's kind of more akin to quartz crystals. So quartz crystals are 7 hardness and diamonds are 10. And Lake County diamonds are 7.5 to 8. But they're very much like a quartz crystal. They're from the volcano. You know, you could find them little tiny ones, but you can find them as big as your thumb. And they're super fun to just find on the ground. And, you know, you just kind of wander around until you kick one up.
Yeah. I mean, I literally found one on this side of the road a couple of months ago, and it's about the size of my thumb, and it's kind of purple. It's really cool to me.
So it's wine and an adventure.
Yeah.
Yes, it totally is.
Tied into one.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And there's a huge ranch, and the vineyards are kind of up in the hills, and so they take you in this Pinzgauer up, and you can see where they grow the wines, and it's a pretty neat adventure, honestly. And you get wine.
Yeah.
And so what is it worth? Like if you find one of those.
They're not really valuable in terms of money.
Okay.
It's worth like having something cool that you found yourself.
Yeah.
And there is a jeweler here that will shape and polish them and put them into jewelry.
And when they're cut and polished, they look for all the world like a proper diamond.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be one heck of a souvenir.
Yeah, it has a story to it, which I love.
Right?
That's so cool to have a piece of jewelry that you can wear that, I don't know, that you found. Like,
Yeah.
I just
Right.
think that's really neat. I'm not a big jewelry person, but that speaks to me for some reason.
Yeah, it's because it's such a unique thing, and it's like, oh, I found this myself. So, like I say, I found that diamond, and I held on to it like it was the grand prize or something. I like it.
All right, well, what's next? How long did we spend there?
We are there pretty much the whole afternoon, and really, this would be better spent over several days, but you could do this all in one day too.
Yeah. It's a little bit out of town, especially if you take that Pinzgauer tour. It's going to be the afternoon.
Yeah,
It's
and then
gonna
you
be
get
taken.
to tasting wine and then talking about wine, and you've spent your afternoon.
And then you never leave.
Yeah, right?
So if you aren't interested in that Pinzgauer tour and you don't want to go and look for those diamonds, if you go just into the town of Kelseyville, you can do like a walking tour of wine tasting, and you can walk to 4 or 5 different tasting rooms without even getting back in your car. And Tony would be very disappointed if I didn't remind you that right among in all those wine tasting rooms is a brewery.
Yes, and a second brewery.
4 within walking distance would be deadly
Yeah.
to me.
And here's
not
the scary thing. They're within walking distance of our house.
Right.
So
Oh,
So, and then in the summertime, if you're here in the summertime on Thursday nights, once a month, there's a street dance in the town of Kelseyville. And so you can do your wine tasting, your beer drinking, and dance in the streets for a few hours.
literally dancing in the streets. It's like a community-wide party, and it's super positive and fun. The music is typically classic rock, country,
Good dancing stuff.
good dancing music.
Yeah.
One of the hidden secrets of Lake County, as it were, is that because we are only a couple hours from San Francisco or Sacramento, we have these amazing world-class musicians who live here because they can go and perform down in the big city. But the price of real estate up here is fairly affordable. And so when it's not COVID times, 7 days a week, there's somebody with tremendous talent doing something, some musical performance. It's incredible if you like live music here. So it's impressive.
All right, so we did the wine tasting, and I don't know if we're ever going to be able to leave that and go do something else with the rest of our evening, or if we're just ending our day there. What were you guys thinking?
We have to have dinner, of course.
Well, yeah, so let's go to the Blue Wing. What I like about the Blue Wing is it's a vintage late 1800s hotel, which is also another option if you want to stay. This couple literally bought this hotel that had been closed for 40 years and completely went through the whole thing, put in antique plumbing fixtures, and just do a super job. And they also rebuilt the old saloon that was next door to the hotel. And so it's a really neat place for food, which, surprise, surprise, sometimes has music as well.
Yeah.
So you can go and have a great meal in this Old West setting in an Old West town. And the food is terrific, and it's really well done.
What's it like there for dinner?
That is a little more, I'd say the food is a little fancier a bit, but it's still, if you get meatloaf, which is what I usually get, they have fancy sauces and fancy potatoes next to it. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy, although I can appreciate good food. And this is one step above classic American food. But they have all the usual things. Nothing is bad there, and the quality of the ingredients are good, and they have good cooks and such. So it's definitely a decent place. You won't be disappointed.
You can get a burger or you can get a steak, and either one is going to be really good.
And so I'm getting the vibe that winding down the day would involve seeing music, perhaps.
Well, and we're not done yet.
Wait.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You had better take
doing?
your vitamins in the morning because we're going to wear you out. So yeah, but you could listen to music. They have a full bar. They also sell some of the locally crafted beers, and obviously they sell the locally produced wines too. So if you're in the mood for any more wine or beer, it's there. And then now, because we're a dark sky area, we're going to send you to the observatory.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah.
So, the observatory is in Kelseyville. And as Tony said, we're a dark sky community. So you can almost observe from anywhere that you are. But going to the observatory is a great experience because they've got educators there and they help you know what you're looking at. And they have the dome, where they can do the movie so that they can show you what you're going to see.
What I've seen them do is put a lot of telescopes outside, and you're out there looking up, basically. And they'll tell you, oh, this is, the ZBDB star or whatnot. I'm an astronomer, can you tell?
Obviously.
But yeah, it's pretty cool because you really get this amazing view of the night sky. And so you can see things that, a lot of people would tell us, wow, I didn't even know there were that many stars up there.
It's true, though. If you grow up in a city and then you get out to a spot like that, it's wild.
Yeah, it's incredible. And so it really is an enjoyable experience. And fortunately, since you're staying at the Featherbed and you're going to be coming in late from the observatory, then since you have your own door and your own parking place, you're not going to disturb anybody coming in.
Okay, so let me ask you about the best Instagram spot in Lake County. Where is it?
I would say the best Instagram spot in Lake County is going to be from the top of Mount Canocti.
Yeah, the fire tower, if it's open.
Yeah, there's actually 3 peaks, and so you get up to the top peak, and you have that view all the way around, and you've got the great view of the lake and the surroundings, and, on a clear day, you can see forever, if I can steal that phrase.
So every town sort of has its thing that might be overrated. Is there something like that in your area that you'd consider overrated?
Well, I think a lot of people are going to say, we have wineries by us. And you may, or people say, oh, well, why wouldn't I go to Napa? Well, our wineries are almost all privately owned by families or individuals. And so when you go into the tasting rooms, a lot of times you will speak with the person whose passion it is to grow those grapes and make that wine. And it's a very different experience. And it's also very friendly. It's not, I've been to wineries where you're talking to an employee who clearly doesn't care. And these wineries up here are really the passion of an individual or family. And so you can feel that, you can hear their philosophy in how they grow and produce these wines. And they're usually really cool people because at the base of it all, they're farmers.
Right.
Right? I mean, they're farmers and they just happen to grow grapes. So it's a very different experience to talk to wineries at this level as opposed to really big commercial operations.
I'm really glad you said that because it made me think of another place, the Leelanau Peninsula in Michigan. They have a lot of wineries and cideries, and it has that same feeling. It's small, and it feels like the people there live year-round. They care so much about the product they're producing.
That's the kind of experience that I prefer. I like wine, okay, but when you're in Lake County, you meet the owner and you meet the guy who picked the grapes and the guy who crushed the grapes, and you want to buy wine because you're buying from your friend.
Well, and they can tell you the story and the process, and it's both educational and doggone it, the wines are good.
It's good quality,
they
award-winning wines.
Yeah, they have the gold medals.
It just comes
to prove
from
it.
a friendlier place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that friendliness and conversation is so important. I mean, you want that out of your day. At least I do.
Yeah, it's a place to come and decompress, especially for people who live in big cities.
You guys have basically described my perfect day.
Well, good.
I really need to come to Lake County and hang out with the two of you. I've decided that at the end of all this.
Well, here's the good thing. If you bring your fifth wheel, we have a Boondockers welcome spot on our property. So you can even stay for free.
Yes. Oh my gosh. No, seriously. Any day where I can jump on a jet ski and then I can go hike a mountain and then I can go have wine and then I can see the stars. I mean, that might be my perfect day.
Yeah,
wow,
what's not to
that's
love?
awesome.
Okay, one last question. Give us your best sales pitch. Why is Lake County so amazing? What makes it so special? Why should we go there?
There's literally, you can't come here and just spend one day. It's at the very least, try for a long weekend, but you won't be disappointed if you spend a week here. There's plenty to do, especially if you enjoy nature and outdoors activities and all of that. It's a pretty cool place.
Plus, there's like 30 wineries, so you certainly can't do all that in one day.
If you want to decompress and see people who really care about the community and get that authentic small town feel, but with big city quality musicians and food, Lake County is a great place to come, and we're only a couple hours from Sacramento or San Francisco.
Nice. Killed it. No, you guys really did describe an amazing day that I would love to go take part in. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, and thank you very much for having us.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Once again, if you want to grab the show notes for this episode, head on over to localsnowbestpodcast.com/9. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love if you would leave a review in Apple Podcasts and let me know what your favorite part was. Make sure to check out the Instagram post for the episode over at Cinder's Travels, and please feel free to share the episode with your favorite travel buddy. Thanks so much. Catch you next time on Locals Know Best.